Welcome to the Transportation Decarbonization Technical Assistance session for Portland Clean Energy Community Benefits Fund. We are the Transportation Decarbonization team here at PCEF. Today we'll be doing introductions, what makes a good proposal, the timeline for the grants process, talk a little bit about planning grants, active transportation and transit funding, fleet electrification and charging deployment funding, some resources, and we would do Q&A, but this is a recording, so there will not be any Q&A at the end. As I mentioned before, we're the Transportation Decarbonization team. I am Lucy Kennedy Wong. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a project manager at PCEF. And
I am Pramod Jacob. I use he, him pronouns. I'm also a project manager and the manager of our team. Sita Reem Rao is not present on this call, but here's a picture of all three of us.
here are some definitions that might be useful in today's session. We use TD to refer to Transportation Decarbonization. That's the name of this funding area and also our team. CG is community grants. It's the name of our, CG 2026 is this year's community grants cycle. We have an annual cycle of community grants. Active transportation and transit. We define that as generally any form of transportation that is non-single occupancy car. So walking, rolling, biking, e-biking, scootering, public transit, etc. And then fleet electrification and charging deployment. That's projects that focus on converting nonprofits' existing fleet to electric, installing EV charging stations, and programs that help community members or other nonprofits and businesses convert to EVs.
And I will be jumping into what makes a good proposal when thinking about applying for our funding area. In general, when looking at any application that comes in, these are some of the considerations that we think of when evaluating an application for funding. First, looking at whether the project is reasonable and scalable, and that can mean, of course, different things for different types of projects. But considering the current technology, the feasibility of how many people you're trying to reach, and how many miles of travel you're looking to achieve in your transportation grant, we look for that. Another important aspect is how the grant activities will promote a greenhouse gas emission savings past the lifetime of the grant. And by that, we could be talking about the type of education and the type of physical infrastructure that your grant will achieve and implement to be able to support people even after your grant ends. Another important thing we look for is that a grant application does not duplicate an existing strategic program. We'll talk more about strategic programs in the next few slides, but on our website you can find a list of all of our strategic programs, and there are certain ones such as SP6 and SP13 that are transportation related. And for example, SP6 is the e-bike rebate program, so if a grant application looks to duplicate that, that would not be eligible. For all applications that are involving physical infrastructure, be sure to consider your property ownership of where you're looking to install equipment or perform activities, ensuring that you have the adequate permissions to do the work that you are planning to do. We also want to see the clear direct and indirect benefits to PCEF priority populations, and we'll go into more of what types of benefits later on in this slide. And lastly, we like to see applications that contain feedback from community members and partners that they're looking to work with, and that feedback helps, and that engagement from communities shows that a grant application is well thought out, and time has been spent to think about what benefits you're looking to bring and how that will help the people you're trying to help. We can go to the next slide. Another slide here about project feasibility is using the SMARTY acronym, and the word spells out some of the different characteristics that you can uh, analyze your project against, and some questions that you can ask yourself to uh, sort of tease out the answers of what your project is trying to achieve and what you need to get to that point. Go to the next slide. And here we have some transportation specific requirements. These are requirements for our funding area. These will be listed in the applicant handbook, which can be found on our website. But for some of these here, we will fund 100% of a vehicle cost for a nonprofit organization, but 25% of vehicle costs for businesses or for-profit entities. There are in that scenario of the business or for-profit entity receiving that 25% cost share for the vehicle, they must be still partnered with a nonprofit as the lead applicant for the grant. We expect projects, EV projects, to be shovel ready. And what we mean by that is for small scale EV purchasing projects, and by that we mean 3 vehicles or under. Uh, we want those vehicles purchased and the accompanying chargers to be operational by around the 1 year point of the grant. And we have a max of 2 years for the small volume EV projects. For larger scale EV purchasing projects, where an organization is buying many vehicles, we are okay with those being longer than 2 years. And we would really like to see the phases of purchasing that you are looking to do in that project. And we'd like to see that clearly defined in your application. Other requirements in our area include physical improvements, and this includes vehicles, bikes, e-bikes. These physical improvements must be within the city of Portland limits. So part of the application process is when we see these physical aspects, we will definitely be verifying to see how you are making sure that those are within the city limits. I have already mentioned the strategic programs. Here it explains again with the SB6 and SB13 with EV financing. These are some of the strategic programs that cannot be replicated through the community grants. And lastly, for calculating cost savings that you are looking to achieve through your transportation grant, we have data that we use for households and individuals about the average travel expenses for Portlanders, and for organizations, part of your application involves submitting financials about your organization where you are outlining a transportation budget. So these, for households and individuals, we have data sets. For organizations, we use their budgets. These are the tools that we use when assessing how much savings a project will achieve. Next slide. And this year we have a major change to what is considered an eligible activity. In the past, we have stated that PCEF funds may not be used for private individuals for their EV purchases, but now that has changed. PCEF funds may now be used to fund EV purchases for private individuals. And examples of eligible activities that are now allowed include electric vehicle incentives of a reasonable amount for income qualified Portlanders who qualify as priority populations, and also the participant education and coaching that would go along with that about financial literacy, and all of the education that can go along with making a purchase as big as a car, as well as electric vehicle education, and all of the help that new purchasers need to be able to learn about purchasing an electric vehicle. And lastly, would like to explain our budget categories and how we and how PCEF lays out our budget, starting with personnel, and that is the staff time for the nonprofit staff. And this would be the main applicant of the project. Travel is for project required travel, so this can include gas reimbursements and local travel, as well as if your project includes uh, costs covered for a conference out of state or elsewhere. Conference tickets are also included in travel. Um, Materials includes physical project purchases, definitely EVs and bikes. Also other physical materials that are purchased for grants. Contractors are contracts section has any contracted services, contracted employees for nonprofits, um, also partners, partner nonprofits that you would sign a subcontractor agreement with. Their funds would also be in this area. The overhead of the project, PCEF as a standard sort of overhead formula that's listed 20% of personnel, 10% of all the other categories. And we try and auto calculate this figure for you in many in many places. But in web grants, when you type in the other figures, the system will calculate the maximum amount of overhead you are allowed to claim. And then other is a category for other expenses such as stipends for volunteers and things that don't fit neatly into the other categories.
Sorry, on mute. Okay. The timeline for this year's community grant cycle is right now, there's technical assistance and support open office hours that will be running up until May. Those are drop-in, or I guess I should say they're not quite drop-in, but they're on a regular cadence. You RSVP, you can show up, and there'll always be folks from different funding areas to answer any of your questions. The applications open in late March. They're currently open, and then they are due in late May, and that is when our review period starts. The review period lasts from May until late fall when we announce decisions, and then grant agreements typically are executed in around the spring of 2027. So between late fall 2026 and spring 2027, we'll be finalizing your milestones, finalizing your grant agreement, and then hope to have those executed and you to start your work in spring of 2027. We've got two different types of grants that we fund. One is a planning grant, one is an implementation grant. For the planning grants, we are hoping that you will be thinking about these questions and answers to these questions around like, what am I trying to solve for? We really want to see like, what is the problem that you are planning on responding to? Is your project going to be doing any kind of activities or research that is already the responsibility of a different government entity? Um, if so, maybe the question is more, how is your proposal going to be building on what already exists on this subject? Maybe you have a particular community or a particular context that hasn't been investigated yet, and you want to do research on those particular folks or particular contexts. And then also, yeah, what are the outcomes of the planning grant? How are you going to be using whatever the product is at the end of the planning grant? And there are two different types of planning grants. So one is up to 100,000 for projects that are focused on community engagement, general research, or curriculum development, and then up to 200,000 for projects that include technical planning activities such as feasibility studies or technical assessments. Now, I'll talk about active transportation and transit funding and eligible activities. So as I mentioned earlier, we define active transportation as any form of transportation that is not in a single occupancy car. So yeah, walking, rolling, biking, e-biking, scootering, public transit, all of that would be considered active transportation. What we want to see in an active transportation grant is, yeah, these direct and indirect benefits. So in no particular priority, here are sort of like five of the benefits we like to see. So, getting more people out of their cars, definitely serving PCEF's priority populations. That is a really big priority for us and what we fund. You can see who we define as a priority population on our website. If you go to PCEF's website, there's a definition there. We want to see, spread awareness and increase access to active transportation. So that could be, yeah, making sure folks know how they'd be able to start walking in their neighborhood, be able to know how they could start biking, or actually giving folks the the assets that they need. So like giving someone a bike, for instance, or giving them safety equipment so that they feel like they could safely walk around their neighborhood related to that, right? Increasing safety for users of active modes of transportation. So yeah, maybe you want to work with folks to figure out a safe way for them to get about. That'd be a great benefit of any grant. And then also, improving air quality, reducing greenhouse gas emissions is something we also want to see in any competitive proposal. Here are some examples of eligible projects, just so you can see the wide sort of range of what is eligible for funding. Pedestrian safety walking or biking programs, bikes, e-bikes, and bike safety equipment. Promote and mentioned earlier that we don't want projects that replicate strategic programs and mentioned our e-bike rebate program. So while that's an e-bike rebate, so we wouldn't fund another proposal that's exactly an e-bike rebate, but we would fund a proposal that would be fully funding e-bikes, for instance, to give away to low-income Portlanders. That is something that would be eligible, that wouldn't be considered duplicative of a strategic program. Other things we fund, yeah, transit passes for community members, transit promotion programs, getting more people on transit, along with, bike repair stations and or tools. This piece would be particularly competitive if it's coupled with some kind of already existing programming. Similar to, secure bike storage, we would love it if it was also coupled with like bike distribution, for instance. That would make it the most competitive proposal. And then, yeah, also an e-bike lending libraries are eligible, along with any kind of like bike repair maintenance vouchers to get community members, to be able to repair and get their bikes fixed up so that they can start using them. Remote?
And now I'll be going over some of our material about our fleet electrification and charging deployment funding area. In this part of our funding area, the proposals are mainly centered around electric vehicles and chargers. And uh, some of the things that really help us understand your proposal quickly is you knowing what type of vehicle you're looking for, making sure that your budget reflects the current costs of what the vehicle uh, costs on the market, and knowing that the vehicle meets your needs and is able to perform the work that you're trying to do. Of course, with electric vehicles, the charging of the vehicle is really crucial for the operation. And so we want to see in your proposal how you plan to charge the vehicles. If there's any specialized work or specialized solutions that you're trying to do, I have some examples here, but it's certainly not limited to this because the world of electric vehicles is constantly evolving. Um, we want to see those ideas developed further than just early concepts. If you are envisioning, specialized work, we'd want to know who is going to perform that, what sort of companies can execute a really high tech solution. Um, when purchasing vehicles, we want to understand how that vehicle is replacing an existing gas vehicle with high usage, or in the case that you are purchasing an entirely new vehicle for your fleet that's electric, we want to see the clear connection to the type of work that vehicle is doing and the type of mileage that it will be covering and how that relates to serving priority populations. And lastly, the feasibility of the project is really important. Understanding the current experience level of organizations with EVs, um, and other limitations that exist when it comes to rapidly transitioning to electric vehicles. We want to see the projects are appropriately sized and feasible for the amount of planning that's gone into it. Some of the direct and indirect benefits of our EV projects, of course, expanding access to electric vehicles, both through driving opportunities and passenger opportunities throughout Portland and with our priority populations. Of course, when using EVs, we see air quality improvements. And so, especially with high usage fleets and vehicles that are covering a lot of miles, right? So, uh, seeing we definitely can make that connection with improving air quality when a high usage vehicle is converted. And then, of course, increasing access to EV charging for Portlanders who cannot install their own because of where they live. Uh, it's a common uh, obstacle these days in the EV transition is that the access to charging is not universal enough. Some of the tips we have for budgeting for EVs, of course, is understanding the exact vehicle that you're buying. There are various trims and styles of vehicles, and understanding which year you're looking to buy and which trim will help you figure out what sort of cost you'll be looking at. We have an example table here of one of the more popular electric vehicles, which is a Ford Lightning. And actually, this has been paused for the 2026 year, but when looking at the past years, you can see that there is a wide price range when it comes to the different types of Ford Lightnings you could buy. Of course, when trying to buy really new vehicles, there are often lead times and perhaps there may be issues with availability. There are also differences in ordering vehicles online versus purchasing them at a dealership. And of course, there are different considerations when choosing which vehicle you're looking for. Of course, the range is a major consideration. There are also others like charging speed and the different features that the vehicle will provide in case that you have specialized working needs. And lastly, if you are considering a repower of a vehicle, which is where a gas or diesel vehicle is converted to electric, we would like to, usually we'd like to meet with you. Unfortunately, right now our application period is open, so we're not able to meet with you one-on-one. But you are able to ask us questions at our application office hours. But this is ultimately allowed under PCEF. And so, yeah, if you have a repowered vehicle application, we're looking forward to seeing it. We have some pointers on EV charging and things that you can do in your application phase. Really solidify your plan and help you understand the costs that are upcoming and what you should ask for in your grant. Having an electrician verify your electrical panel at the property where the chargers will be installed is a great first step, as they're able to instantly tell whether you have the capacity to install chargers, how many chargers you could install, and at what speed. And you can then sort of work to see if that's enough for the amount of vehicles you're looking to get, or if you need to make some changes and upgrade your electrical panel for more chargers. As mentioned before, we do require a detailed charging plan for any EV funding requests, and so that is a requirement. We also are interested in understanding your plan for the security of your chargers and EVs. There have been numerous instances that our team has dealt with our prior grantees, and things that we've heard through the community where vandalism of EV chargers is unfortunately more common than we would like. And so there are some steps that can be taken to help improve the security and lighting and reduce the potential of vandalism. And so those are allowable expenses for your grant. And so if you are looking to request those, that is allowed. Moving on, both of the local electrical utilities in the Portland area, in the city of Portland, PGE and Pacific Power, both have rebates for nonprofits to install EV chargers. We have their website linked at the end of this presentation, and on their websites, you're able to find the sort of similar programs they both have with slightly different names, but you are with funds, if their funds are available, it sort of varies throughout the year, but if their funds are available, they're able to provide a rebate for you to install a EV charger, so that can help offset more costs. All chargers installed through PCEF must be UL certified. If you are awarded, your grant manager will be checking what model of charger you're installing and that it is UL certified. Your grant manager will also be working with you. If you're awarded and you're installing more than 4 EV chargers, there will be some extra quality control and reporting for that charging installation. And we would also allow the costs for configuring ADA accessibility in parking lots. If you're installing chargers and there is an opportunity to change those configurations, we do allow for that. And this is the resources tab I was just mentioning. And I can start at the top. First is linking to our climate investment plan. That is a PCEF-wide document that contains a ton of information about how our current allotment of funds are planned to be spent. It has all the information about our strategic programs, and it describes all of our funding areas and is sort of the major document that has everything you'd want to know about what is PCEF doing right now and what are all the projects that we're trying to tackle. I've mentioned strategic programs in this presentation a few times. This link will take you straight to the list of all of PCEF's SPs, and you're able to read about each one. The next 2 links, as I mentioned, are for the electric utility websites, Pacific Power and PGE. These links will take you to their website where you will find the how-tos for how to participate in their rebate program. You will find QPLs, which are qualified product lists. Both utilities have lists where you have to pick chargers from their list in order to qualify. And we also have our grant application dashboard for PCEF. This dashboard has every application that has ever been submitted to PCEF all the way back to the beginning. So you can go and see every application that's been funded and denied, and read about them and learn more about what we've funded in the past. Last, we have a link to the City of Portland Code for bike storage and parking in case you are looking to plan for that in your grant. There are some code requirements for bike storage and parking. That brings us to the end of our presentation. Thank you. And as I mentioned, we are having applicant office hours. The times for these can be found on the PCEF website for the 2026 community grant application cycle. And during these times, there will be a member of our team present on that call that can answer specific transportation questions for you. If not, you are able to email the Clean Energy inbox, and your question will be answered through that.